I guess you are here to see Mostly Robot, right? Are you really? Excuse me, are you really here to see Mostly Robot?
Give it up for Mostly Robot!
We were joking, this is kind of like our version of the unplugged kind of set, you know. It's kind of hilarious because we've got about as many machines as anyone can afford. Jeremy's rocking the new shit. Actually, these guys are all rocking the new stuff.
Check. Yep. Hello.
How's it going, everyone? You good?
Hello.
We thought rather than just talk straight away, because we can talk for hours, we would play a song from the show that we play. We have a few songs in the repertoire that are originals, like this one. It's a song called like this. The song's called Nothing.
Mostly robot. Mostly robot.
Yes. Give it up for Tim Exile, DJ Shiftee, Jamie Lidell, Jeremy Ellis, and Mr. Jimmy, aka Mostly Robot. Yeah, it's actually very cool to have you here. And you just played the Berlin Festival last weekend, and that was your second gig ever? How was that?
what I loved about it, actually, because when we first got together, you could see, making all of these machines talk, it takes a while to get it started. So the first time we practiced, it was like, how are you going to do that? And I mean, how am I going to do this? And is that going to work? And we spent ages just kind of making it work. So when we came back together this time in Berlin, we set all our stuff up, and it was going. Yeah. It was just like, we've got that, I've got my sounds, you've got your sounds. We were making music, we were the band. Yeah. It was, so we actually had a chance to just get in there, practice, and yeah, it just felt good. We, you know, because that song we just played, I mean, it used to be pretty good, but now it feels like you can really, I can really lean on it, you know. As a singer, it's really good. You can feel like you lean on the band, and it's like everyone feels like solid. So yeah, it's we haven't played together for long, but it already feels like everyone's so talented, you know. It's like it's easy once you've got focus, once you've got songs, once you've got something that you're trying to do. I mean, everyone can do it pretty easily, but it's really just knowing what to do.
But you're all used to solo performances. I mean, you're all basically solo artists, you know, have their own little program. So how is it working in a band? All of a sudden you have to watch somebody else doing something, and are you afraid of, oh, what do I do if he screws up?
Well, one challenge is just doing way less. So everyone is like you said, a one-man band. So we're each used to filling up all the space, doing the bass, doing the mid-range, doing the vocals. And with this, part of it is coming to grips with you have to do a lot less than you're used to doing, and still being, you know, comfortable with your instrument and in that role, doing less. So that was, yeah, when we first got together, I think it was a bit of a cacophony. Everyone was just like, all right, I'm going to fill all the space. I'm going to fill all the space too. Look at all the space we've filled. But now it's like, all right, it's. Even when we start jamming now, it's everyone knows they need to pick a specific role, be minimal, really listen to people. It's just become much more like a band as opposed to a bunch of one-man bands, one-man benders. Yeah, all coming together.
I mean, it's pretty similar to how like it's not completely dissimilar to how a normal band would come together in every role. Like there's a bass player, there's a drummer, this kind of thing. It's just it happens to be that like each of us is kind of switching positions numerous times throughout the night. Sometimes Shiftee's playing the drums, sometimes I'm playing the big drums, sometimes Tim is handling the beefy drums, and then my role is just to play like hi-hat parts or something, fill in that kind of high-end space, you know? And so it's similar to like a funk band, how I think of it, where it's all about pocket. So everybody has like a specific place. Maybe he's on the and then there's a space in between for other people to fill, you know? Pocket. Woo!
Like is it really? Do you really want to fill all the gaps, though? Sometimes, as you said, it's about reducing things as well. Did you have the experience in the beginning when you were jamming that you were all playing all together and it was just a big pile of?
I was lucky in that like these guys got together and had a previous rehearsal when I was out doing some other shows, and they kind of like came together and decided that there was going to be like more of a song format. I mean, that we were going to improvise within, kind of in like a jazz setting, you know, where you have a specific melody you're going to touch, and then the other parts are going to be improvised around that. And that, like what Jamie was saying, like this time when we came in, the natural feeling like 4 or 5 days ago was that we already knew exactly where we were going to be playing, even though you subconsciously were creating that space at that moment, you know. I actually feel like we're more who we are than we were last time somehow as well.
But I mean, the way that you came together wasn't that somebody said, oh, I need a drummer for a band, or I need somebody who can sing, or I need somebody who can play keyboards. Yeah. Maybe you can explain the way that you all came together.
I mean, I think that's kind of the way they started out with Jeremy and Shiftee, and I don't know his name.
My name's Mr. Jimmy.
And Tim, and you know, they jammed around, and then I think the native dudes like said, man, this needs to be a band, we should get a lead singer, and they got Jamie, and that's my gig, you know. I'm Jamie's side man, and that's what I play all the bass. And then he was kind of like, you know, well, you know, it was like if Jeremy's gonna take care of the drums, it's like, you know, it's like I always play the bass with my left hand. That's what's gotten me all my cash under these years, you know. But and so, you know, I can kind of round it out with, you know, with, and you know.
So maybe you can, even if you said that you don't really have any roles in the band, I guess there are some parts that you're responsible for. Maybe we can start from one side to the other, and then you explain what actually your part is and what kind of stuff that you're using. Because there's a big pile of equipment on the table, and maybe you can explain what it's for, at least parts of it.
Yeah, well...
Sorry.
I just can't help it, alright? I'm just like the kind of weird
Effects guy, and I need to do these things.
It's just kind of like a form of autism, maybe.
Yeah, anyway. Well, it's not, that's the thing, it's not, so if you're in a band with acoustic instruments, you're stuck in your timbre. And I think that's the thing with electronic instruments, is that you're not stuck in the timbre at all. So we can, as has been said before, we just sort of hop around and do whatever. But it's like, so we can do whatever sound, but we all have a certain way of doing whatever sound. So Shiftee's doing synth lines. The synth lines sound like they're like turntablist synth lines.
Maybe you can show a little bit.
Beats. Yeah. Like
come on, do a synth line.
All on.
Do a synth line. Shiftee.
Yeah. So
that's one way to do it.
Yeah, that's Shiftee on synth, and then if Jimmy's doing synth, and he's like. Spot the non-musician here. Yeah, so anyway.
So what are you doing when you're all playing the same synth line at the same time?
Well, we're not, that's the whole thing. So it's kind of like, there's like a... we got to find our pockets, but the thing is we all like change pockets all the time, which is like extra voodoo.
But sometimes we get together as well, and so like the interplay of everybody taking a different part of the time. If you here's a little I'm here, he's here, here's where we're here, and then like, but it comes together. Like on that line, we might not play the same thing, but we would get together on the
Actually, yeah, I do a sort of whatever.
But come on, it's not really a big jam session that you're doing. I guess you have sounds or songs that you are basically playing like real instruments in the band, right?
Yeah, for the most part. And there's certain parts that are definitely improvised and are gonna be... There are forms in jazz, like you have what's called a form, and it's like, and you basically follow this general outline. But inside these parameters is where you flex. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe we could demonstrate with like a song that people know. Sure. Like for example, we do a cover version of Rocket, Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's pretty clear, this one, because we kind of pass stuff around between, ourselves. And obviously with this song, you've got a blueprint, the melody, the tempo, what the drums are doing. You kind of know the original, so you've got something to work from. And it was kind of one of the ideas we had, considering Shiftee being like, a world champion, DMC world champion, and
twice.
Mostly robot.
Deep sea world champion.
Deep sea champion.
He left his tentacles at home tonight.
Yeah, well, I think that's it. As you see, you will just pass it around, and that's kind of how we started in a way, taking on some familiar territory, then kind of using, like in a way, when you're doing a maths exam, you don't do the hard questions first. Maybe you start with a few easy ones. Tick them off, and then you're doing all right. You think, we could do this. Then you take something a little bit more challenging. This is level one.
Level one. Chicka.
I try not to fuck it up because I'm usually the one who fucks up this song. So level two. Mostly.
Mostly robot.
So one of the things we do is, there's a lot of machines here, so if something crashes, I'm just going to play the mostly robot sample until things are back on track.
Mostly robot.
These things are important when you're playing with a lot of computers.
Mostly robot. Mostly robot.
That's what I'm talking about, then Jeremy's there. Here it goes.
Mostly robot. Mostly robot. Mostly robot.
We've got to battle through when you're in an electronic band sometimes.
Mostly robot.
Crash Central.
I was actually just about to ask about improvisation strategies, but we saw a few, I guess.
Well, there you go. You know? Welcome inside, mostly robots. The funny thing was, when we had this practice space, like a few days in, it was like we'd play the set, and then we'd come back after dinner or whatever, we'd just plug our machines and start playing. And sometimes we'd come up with new ideas for songs just by like playing around, and that was a big idea of Jeremy's. Just like, oh come on, forget all this song stuff. I mean, it's kind of really useful just to like start playing. And after a while, we were really like, you know, muting stuff at the same time, and we were starting to be like, I'm going to do this, and then someone picks it up, and you start to get this kind of like sense. I mean, much like in a band, you know, you just kind of get people's character a little bit. And I mean, I think it's hard to know when a machine's going to crash or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That's something you just can't.
Well, and that's, I think that you guys actually got a great taste. I mean, besides just the actual crashiness of that, is that like we're looking around a lot, you know?
Yeah,
this is like a regular.
But do you have a conductor? Do you have one person that you look at that you say, okay,
it seems like
he's
there's each song kind of has its own certain cues
Tim
as well.
Often, if Tim's loops, for example, they're like a train. So that once they're rolling, I mean, it's kind of like we need to know when he's going to stop.
They can still stop.
They can stop, of course, but I mean, you know, so there'll be times when we need to look at Tim. There'll be times when we need to look at, you know, it's Jimmy.
Jimmy's kind of, he's like musical. I don't know. In my eyes, he's like musical director dude because he, you know, he's got his like church background and you know he plays Whitney Houston. You know, he's like kind of
exactly.
You know, he directs bands.
Mr. Jimmy's got the good old-fashioned musical cues of like head. Like like screaming,
solo,
like you know, which
three,
is great.
2, 1, That's good.
Raven solo.
Welcome to the mind of Tim Exile.
Speaking of the mind of Tim Exile, maybe we should get into Tim Exile's baby, which is. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? You want to do that?
Are we ready for that?
Are we ready for that?
I think we are.
I don't know. Are we? Oh,
That's nice. Let's do it.
Well, actually, when I made this machine, because I'm kind of like I'm the nerd. I'm the nerd.
I guess there are a lot of nerds in the room. And I think you're not the only one.
Who's a nerd? Put your hands up if
It's
you're a
pretty
nerd.
nerdy here.
Only nerds in the front row?
You guys are
really?
too cool for school, man.
I really am in a minority. I always thought I was. Anyway, yeah. So I made this machine. I programmed this machine. I spent about 2 years programming it. But when I made it, I was like, one of the things I want to do, because I'm a massive like electronic, well, sort of IDM, Aphex Twin kind of fan, and I just really wanted to do Window Licker live. I was just like, I want to make a machine where you can play Window Licker with your fingers, and then when Mostly Robot came about. It was my perfect opportunity, so I pushed for it.
The other magical trick is to create like a bunch of mystery noises, like you're in a fucking giant cavern.
mostly robot.
So we heard 2 cover versions. Is that an easy way to step in, or with covers?
I mean, I think it helps. I think it's useful for everyone to sort of understand what's going on and to also just dig it, you know? So, oh yeah, I know this one. There's a whole hour of stuff that you've never heard before. I mean, it could be great, but I mean, also it's a little bit maybe alienating. So, but that said, we do have originals. And the majority of them are kind of songs that started out live, I guess, for convenience, as kind of B-sides from my new record. Just lyrically, actually, and form-wise, and kind of just to give us some foundations, a bit of a blueprint to work from. And I think, especially for me, I'm terrible at improvising lyrics. I can sing, I can make shapes, I can paint with my voice all day, but like improvising lyrics is not something I can do. So I like to have the lyrics down, and I like to have a song form down. So we took a few of those songs. There's like a song we play called Nothing. There's another song called All On, and there's a lyric from another song called Invader, and there's another song called After All, and then there's another song that an older song of mine called A Little Bit More. They're kind of like the original tracks. And then we kind of have like a jam out, which doesn't have many meaningful vocals, more like just sounds.
But you all have different reputations as artists. For you, for example, you release a lot of records, first off as Super Collider and then as your own solo material. Is it for you first a step down that you have to start all over again? You get on stage with a different band and you have to support a completely new project, even though you are already quite famous for your own material?
I mean, I see it as an absolute decadent pleasure, to be honest. I think these are all amazing players that I've always wanted to play with. I mean, I play with Mr. Jimmy a lot musically. And with these fellas, I don't think I've just admired them from afar. So actually to share real space, real stage time.
People ask me like how it started out, like speaking to like how much we love playing with each other. When Native Instruments sent me the email and said, "Do you want to play with Jamie Lidell, Tim Eck?" I was like, "All right, please, yes, I will be there. Tell me when the show is." You know, like these guys are like my heroes for real. You know, and I mean, Jimmy came along with, and he's my new hero, a little bit. You know, we hug sometimes. No, but seriously, I mean, to be able to play with serious genius level musicians, it blows my frickin' mind, you know? I think I'm really good, but it blows my like that.
But isn't it a bit romantic
to
to think of that way? I mean, a lot of people in the audience probably think, all right, yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting for that email as well to just play in a band. Of course, I guess you have to qualify over the years to get that email. But I mean, do you think this whole setup would have ever happened without the help of the industry with all of this?
I mean, I think definitely. I think the future is like, I think we all know, I think everybody in this room knows that the future is like integrating computers with your shit, because every computer, the shittiest, cheapest computer you can find is powerful as a motherfucker, man. You know? It's like, shit, like I had a Fender Rhodes and a Moog bass for years in America, like lugging it around. That's all I did. I had my realistic, it was the roundest 2 oscillators you've ever heard, and they played Workter, and it's played all over the fucking world, that synth, you know? And like, man, I don't know, man, computers. I just like had enough bread to like buy one last year, you know, and I'm like, bam, you know? And I think we all know that, and that's the future. If you make a group in the future, which is now, everybody probably is gonna have, I mean, if you're dealing with any kind of keyboard players, they're probably gonna have a computer, unless they're just real assholes, and just like wanna lug their heavy ass shit all around all the time. But you know, it's like, yeah, I mean, yours is not that heavy, Tim. Bam, you know? But you know, I mean, it's pretty normal. I think computers have found their way into every instrument. Like, maybe guitarists are out there kind of getting left out a little bit. Oh, they're not getting left out. But I mean, so this is like, you know, this is just a sign of things to come and the things that already are there, you know? That's the way I think about it. Okay. So yes.
It still is a decadent pleasure, though. Absolutely. I mean, we probably couldn't, let's be honest, we couldn't afford on our own to make this happen.
If we lived in the same town.
If we lived in the same town, we could.
If we lived in the same town, we definitely could. And that's if you live in a big place like Berlin, man. I mean, like, there's plenty of, like, okay, Berliners, hey, what's up? Who wants to make a fucking band right now? You, and you. All right, you're going to get your computers together, make some fucking music. I mean, obviously, it's the future. Welcome to the future. I mean, we couldn't have because we're, you know, high dollar musicians and we live in different places. And so, like, it took some real serious cash to get us all together. But, I mean, you know, I mean, come on, let's be honest. Like, I mean, 5 of you guys get together, do what we're doing, party on. I mean, maybe you don't have a degree from Harvard and 2 champion DMCs or have sold thousands and hundreds of thousands of records. But come on, man, it's the future.
I like that. Positive. Keep it positive. In the house. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Question to the vocal cords here. How do you handle feedbacks, considering you're adding a lot of effects? I have to say that normally adding that much effect on voices makes a lot of fucking feedbacks.
You're absolutely right about that, yeah. It's really a combination of avoiding... Actually, I really like using flange. I mean,
Me too.
Yeah, you know, and I've been known to throw flange on these things, and that was a miserable nightmare the first gig we did, exactly for that reason. Partly because we were practicing in a really crazy room where I could turn that on all the time and it would be fine, and as soon as we got on stage and we had hi-fi monitors and stuff, they were picking everything up. I mean, obviously, actually the weird thing was, when we played the gig the other day at the arena, the monitors were like under the table, pointing through the table. So basically, maybe one of the tricks is to keep the monitors under a table.
Got it.
Which is how I pay my maid.
I couldn't hear a lot, but I could hear enough. And maybe that's the key. Maybe I think as a vocalist, there is that tendency to want to hear everything really loud. And obviously, you just got to turn it down when you're putting effects on. Maybe it's that simple. Or just, yeah, it's a tough one, though. Good sound man. Good sound man is excellent. I would say a monitor engineer is one of the best members of the band. You know, they really are essential.
Give it up for Bart back there, by the way. Who's our sound guy.
Ultimately, yeah, they control everything. But
I mean, I always make sure in soundcheck that I get like a good 10 minutes with the whole rig at like the loudest ever possible volume they're ever going to push it to, and then because I'm doing a lot of looping with the mic and so on, and I like to just kind of drop it and not switch it off and let it go round and round and round. And if you get feedback caught in the loops, it's just horrible. So yeah, that's just make sure you get like, well, maybe it's not possible in a massive arena, but I think
yeah, keep the monitors like in front of you.
Okay.
The monitors behind you is a bloody nightmare, obviously.
Actually, I have my monitors behind me, but it seems to work.
Yeah, they, you know, because they hear the mic hears it from behind, you know. These, and as well with the right microphone, and these things, crap as they're kind of amazing. They just, you know, they just don't overhear. It's nothing, you know what I mean? It's great from the ears. You know, you can't hear anything. So it's good quality, cheap. That's what we like.
If you have any like self-programmed things going on, or is this also just like a, well, native, common programmed stuff?
Well, yeah, it's all. I mean, it's all self-programmed. The Reactor thing. Well, it's in Reactor, so
yeah,
I didn't make Reactor. That would have been very hard work. But yeah, I made all. Yeah, this whole setup is like it took about 2 years. Basically, it all centers around this looper here, and I can have up to 8 loops. Once you do something with the looper, it kind of fixes you into a tempo, so you go, and then you're locked into that tempo. Anything you overdub over the top of that is locked in that. If you can actually loop it in time. Oh, no, actually, there. Okay, it does. So that's my looper basically, and you can route these loops through the effects. I keep on adding stuff, and it's got. So that's basically the effects section over here, like all the keyboard and so on. There's all a bunch of effects, and then I've got drum machines that I can kind of do live drum stuff over the top of it. Clearly not a good night for having a machine. Anyway, this machine that doesn't work very well, I made it all myself.
Well, thank you very much.
Yo, let's be real
what
about it. That shit blows my mind every single time I see it. That's
even
just,
the time
that's
it
nuts.
doesn't work.
No, even that blew my fucking mind.
Mostly robot. To answer the first question, I think we're mostly using stock stuff, but I actually have a special version of Tractor to sync up with the visual team. So yeah, I got to shout out the visual team for Pfadfinderei, who are making all the visuals behind here. And I don't know, can we show the turntable? Could we do that? Yeah. So this is custom only for Mostly Robot right now, where I can move the record and the visual will actually know what's going on. So this is really our only extra special feature. With enough knowledge, you could make all this happen otherwise.
You already see, I think, what happens, actually. It's quite simple. Everybody's sending signals to my computer, and this was the whole idea, because everybody's playing live, and we do a concept where you can actually feel the instrument a little bit more, because people are playing the instrument in the moment. So that was the idea, to give everybody a visual sculpture, or a visual object, and you can just see what's happening. So you can a little bit imagine that they all jam together. So what we have here is just always one of a third screen. There's normally a huge screen with 3 times bigger. That's why I always have to move the screen around between all the musicians. But on the show, you see everything at the same time. And it's also a little bit orientated on where everybody is staying on the table. So it's behind the musician.
Yeah, it's all clear. Yeah.
So talking about individual artists, Jeremy, you are kind of a multi-instrumentalist, right? You can sing, you can play piano. You were trained as a classical piano player, right? And now you're playing the drums. How did that happen?
Well, I grew up in not just like a piano family, but also I grew up playing drums in a marching band family, American marching band. So I play percussion and all that stuff. I grew up doing all of that. So it's just the whole time, both of those skills. I mean, I mainly leaned on piano, but as I mentioned to you earlier in private conversation, just being in Detroit, I mean, to totally date myself, like in the mid-90s, when Detroit was really exploding with like amazing electronic dance music, that's exactly when I came up. It was like a perfect blessing for me to see all of these people that just like, they didn't get recognized when they went to the grocery store. They would leave town, make a couple $1,000s playing in Berlin or something, and fly home, and they would be normal humans on Monday through Friday, you know? I was like, that's what I want to do, you know? And then I would see them in their studio playing their drum machines, and they weren't like particularly proficient, and you would see them playing things like, and you could see the struggle happening, you know? And I grew up playing so many things with all my fingers, so I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense to me. You know, I'm just gonna reapply what I'm already doing there, you know? So it sounds weird to say that it was a natural evolution, but it really felt very natural. It was just progressed always, every year.
Want to hit him with a routine, man.
I think everybody does want to see
Come on,
Jeremy,
man.
all right?
Hit him with something.
Come on.
Jeremy, you're playing mine, man. I'm talking about. Jeremy Ellis, ladies and gents. The house.
Is there any, this is a question that goes out to every one of you, is there any talent that you need besides just playing an instrument to become successful as a musician these days?
I think it's really a personality thing. In fact, it's more, I reckon it's actually more to do with your personality and your drives than it actually has to do with your talent. I don't know, call that a bit controversial, but, because, I don't know, I reckon like, if you're a kind of attention seeker, which you do have to be to some extent to be a musician, that like, you need to have that drive to have that thing fulfilled. If you're like that, then you will develop skills and talents that will wow people, and it's going to be worth your while to spend the time to become really good. So I think actually it's just how you're made up.
I think to be a good turntablist, that's where I'm coming from, you need to be able to tolerate pain and boredom for a long stretch of time, because really, and I think, yeah, being able to do it when it's not fun, when it's pain, when it feels like work, and be able to keep going and force your body to do things.
That's almost exactly what I was going to say, but in a different way. I saw a documentary a couple of years ago, and it was all from people that were 80 years old and older, and all of them were crazy successful in their field. And one of the things that really stood out for me that this guy said is, he's like, I have a lot of friends who sit around and wait for inspiration, and none of them are doing shit. You know, you have to choose to be inspired. You have to find something to be inspired about. And even if you're not inspired, there's something else to do. There's some other sort of practice that you can do that's going to take your skill set to another level. You know, it's not always about being creative. It's about advancing the things that you do that make everything else that you do easier somehow. So don't wait for it, just do it. And then another great phrase that I really take with me, or anything worth doing is worth doing right or well, you know? That's bullshit. Anything worth doing, just do it. Just fucking do it. Don't wait until you're the best until you can do it. Just start doing it poorly, and then the second time you won't be so poor, and then the third time you'll be very good, and then the fifth time, if you bust your ass, you'll be in mostly robot.
So where do you draw your inspiration from when you go through that valley, when you're on the bottom line? I mean, you're obviously not looking out of the window, you're just doing something, but is there any other thing that you're drawing inspiration from?
I think that you should draw inspiration from your personal experiences, from the places that you are. People, when they ask me about, like, what's your most influential this, I say, like, this situation with everyone of us experiencing this right now. This is influential, you know? Being in a particular place and feeling the vibe of the city, or maybe you're on a particular dance floor and everyone's smiling, and that's what I'm taking with me. I'm not taking, like, oh, the bass drum mix is like flawless, you know? I'm thinking this is the room and this is the energy that I want to recreate somehow later, you know? Or this is the horrible thing that happened. I saw, you know, you see something fucking horrible happen on the street or something, you know? And that's the energy that you try to, like, recover from and put into your music, you know? There's never one inspiration, but for me, it's experience.
There's something inside the universe, I think, that wants music to be made. And I think that thing, or art, just say art, to be made, because it's an expression of our collective and individual, you know, experiences. And that's what we do, is express those experiences through maybe capturing them on video, or putting whatever music notes to pictures, or whatever, you know? Or writing an article about Berkheim and explaining it to some fucking Arkansans, you know, that would never ever get that. You guys don't even know what I'm talking about, but just some weird people in America that, I don't know, but I think that when one is at that low point, one knows that, like, if you're in doing it, you've been doing it for a reason, and that reason is because you can't stop doing it. And even if you change your ways and you quit the business side of it, maybe that's the good thing to do, is just quit the business side of it and then go, you know, somewhere like me, to my farm or whatever, and just, like, go out in nature and just figure it out, and figure out what people need, you know, because that's what it's, I don't know. There's something else to all this that needs art to be made, and it needs to keep going, and that thing helps those who help it, kind of. I don't know. It's hard to really put into words, but there's a deep, subtle way of it all, a Tao or whatever, and it wants art to be made. And that's the place that I personally go to when I'm feeling low. That's preach. Hallelujah!
Living more, 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 indeed, oh, indeed, oh, got that day,
Give it up once again, Mostly Robot. Shiftee, you're next.
Oh, really?
Let's do it.
Man.
Cut him up, Shift.
Cut it up, Shift.
Your mother is a principal, your dad is a lawyer. How did you become a DMC world champion? That's the question.
They were supportive. Actually, you know, when I got turntables when I was 13, they were supportive of that. When I practiced all hours of the night in this little closet, I was trapped in the closet like R. Kelly. They supported that too. And I mean, like I was really involved and fascinated by turntablism and battle DJing. Those were sort of like my heroes, people like Craze, A-Track, Qbert, Rock Raider. And so I was doing the battles from a really young age, maybe 15 years old, 16 years old. And they would travel with me all around the country, you know, in all these national finals.
Did they show you how to do it, or did you all have to
I was like, Mom, teach me how to crab scratch. Mom, I really want the crabs. No, it didn't work. It didn't work like that. No, they were just pretty much, they were just supportive. I said I was 13 and I decided I wanted to do this, and they were like, all right, that's cool. And you know, maybe part of it is, you know, one's a principal, one's a lawyer. I think everyone likes music, everyone likes art. So I was fortunate to have parents who supported me when I wanted to do something a little bit different, a little bit.
But they still said, yeah, but you still need to go to Harvard. So you said, okay, I'm just going to do that as well, and then you got your Harvard degree.
Yeah, I went to college too. And I mean, that was the only source of conflict. I had 1 year of high school where I was like, screw high school, I'm just going to get good at scratching. And that's when it, you know, it started. Maybe there was a little less support, understandably so. So basically, as long as if I delivered the goods in school, I was able to sort of continue doing what I love to do, which was scratch and DJ. Yeah, I know I kept doing it in college, and I guess the trick was I just didn't sleep at all.
And who paid for all the drugs?
I'm a drug-free individual. I'm just a Red Bull man, actually.
Nice, they sponsor us as well.
Yeah, I'm Red Bull, yeah.
We can hook you up, man.
Yo, let's do it. I need that in my life.
But you can't get better than that. I mean, what's beyond DMC World Champion?
Doing stuff like this.
No.
I mean, as far as turntablism goes, that was my goal for 10 years. When I was 13 and I started, my goal was to be a DMC World Champion, and 10 years later I was. So for that, it's really the pinnacle. But I mean, I think, you know, it progresses beyond that. Something like this, I think, is above, you know, DMC. You're reaching a wider audience. You get to interact with all these great musicians. So I think it's just progression in the music you make, progression in the type of DJ that you are. So yeah, that's even though I achieved my goal, I still have, I have new goals to strive for.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the equipment that you use. You have a machine here, you have a mixing desk over there. Maybe you can just explain. I don't know if everybody can see what's back there.
All right, so normally I use 2 turntables here. So it's this here in the middle, this is the Tractor S4, which is like they took a traditional DJ set and they squished it into one unit. It's like the McGriddle from McDonald's, if anyone is familiar with that, where you take a whole breakfast and you squish it into one beautiful sandwich, and it has extra things like pancake and syrup-infused pancake bread, just like the Tractor S4 has extra features which you do not get in the traditional DJ setup. So pretty much I have a mixer, kind of a traditional mixer. This here, I could even scratch. I could scratch. And then, I mean, other than that, the physical aspect of it is pretty traditional, but that's where the machine comes in for me. So with the machine, I'm doing things like jumping around the song. I can jump to specific places. Here we go.
Should I hold the mic?
I got it.
Yeah. It was, yeah. It was all a dream.
So I can interact with the songs in a way more interesting way for me. I can have way more authorship over what's going on by things as simple as jumping to a specific part of the song, setting loops. Also, I'm doing lots of effects on here that are all built in.
I used to read Word Up magazine. It was all a dream.
With a single button, still have the ability to scratch. So I'm kind of doing like traditional DJing plus. So I have all that kind of physical interaction with the music. I'm scratching, I'm beat juggling, but at the same time, jumping around the song, getting that extra syrup infused in my turntable pancakes.
But it's not that you're looking for the gaps in the music and then you think, oh, I might just scratch in here. You're just basically doing synth lines as well. And
oh, yeah, as far as my role in the group, yeah, it really changes a lot. And a turntablist can be kind of like a vocalist, especially if I'm dealing with an a cappella. So part of it is in our songs, finding my role, finding my place. A lot of times I'll be more of a fill, maybe I'll be a synth. And that last number we did, I was the drums. The beautiful thing about the turntables is if you can control the turntable, you can control any instrument. So you could be a tuba player or an orchestra or play the piccolo. If you can control this, you can control it all. So I kind of, each song I kind of have to find which instrument fits the best.
Shiftee later on the ones and twos. Wheels of steel.
We really have to get those chairs away. It just doesn't work when everybody's sitting. But we'll do that in a minute, okay? Just to round this up, everybody can do this, you said. So the equipment that you use is, except for your self-made machine, is all stuff that you can buy in the shop.
Yeah.
Jamie, what you're using, which kind of effects you're using. I remember the first time I think I saw you about 10 years ago in Munich. You were doing your thing, you were in the zone, you were layering your voice on top of each other. Next time I saw you, I think, was at the Admiralspalast playing with a live band. That was a little different.
Yeah.
So, what is your setup now?
Well, actually, thanks to Sam, this controller is basically my effects unit, so I can just... It's very basic.
So it's kind of the same thing that he's using.
It's very basic. Yeah, I can.
He's using it in a totally different way. So I'm using it as I'm using this as a full-on DJ setup, but this one is remapped, so it's a vocal processing unit.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got volume, I've got like weird effects on the one side, which I don't use very often. And then I've basically just got my delays, which I can tap. It's actually really convenient though. Sometimes the simplest effects you can really, I mean, that's all you need, and you can get a lot of you know, you can really be effective. So like I can tap the tempo obviously with this little button. And then I just got little presets basically, so I can, if I want a word to be like, whoa, whoa, yeah, but then I can come back to, you know, just within a button press, I'm like, it spills out, and it can just be like, you know, it's, although that should be a big thing, but it's not. It's to the, you know, point. It's al dente. It's very simple, and that's basically all I need. So yeah, my stuff's really basic, but I do use it a lot, and there's a little looper on here which I use a lot as well. So like at the end of a phrase, if I'm coming down on a note that I know is going to be the root or whatever, I'll just kind of linger on it, and I've got a little volume, like there from the last one, I've got a little volume on all of that, and I can just sort of fade myself out and generally sort of, you know, meld into the music. It's been really good. I will say I love this, because usually my setup is like Tim's. It's a lot more involved. There's loads of cables, and it's kind of a mind fuck. You're just trying to like hold it down when you're setting up, and the sound checks. This, I just plug this in, bap, bap, bap. That comes in. I can see my levels, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. You know. And I've got a little sampler player thing, so I'll just play some additional keyboard moments, which is fun. And I'm pretty bad at it, so I keep it simple. You know, you've got no limits. I mean, singing alone takes a lot of juice. So I think, in a way, I just want to get on with that and make sure it's good.
My question is for Shiftee. What do you think about this change into digital turntablism? Like, scratching used to be, like, you had to scratch on vocals, right? Or on sounds, like, made for scratching. But then you can scratch on synthesizers, and it sounds, well, strange somehow. Like, it used to be more about being precise, right? And sometimes now it seems kind of muddy.
The question is sort of, it's comparing how things used to be with the sounds and the fresh sounds compared to scratching synthesizers and you know, expanding the repertoire. And I mean, there's nothing like a good old-fashioned sound. That's the best sound to scratch. Fresh is good too. Fresh and they're exactly. So I mean, nothing like from pure turntablism. I don't think that's ever gonna go away. I mean, that's the way. Like when DJs jam with each other on a scratching sense, it's mostly cutting sounds, because that's when the technique is really exposed. But I mean, I think it would just be boring if everyone stuck to sounds. And I mean, not every sound lends itself as well to scratching, but I think just to try to keep pushing things and do more, it's definitely worth scratching sounds besides even though is a fantastic sound to scratch. And I think all this technology helps a lot do sort of skill stuff in the context of a DJ set. So it's like bottle popping. We pop bottles. I mean, scratch whatever you want. Scratch, yeah, like I said, scratch a tuba, scratch a piccolo, scratch a fart sound, scratch the sound of Jeremy combing his fine hair at night. All these things are lovely sounds to scratch. And it's, I mean, like with anything, I think it's just how the DJ does it. You know, with taste and skill, any sound can be scratched well, I think.
Last year I was at a festival in Vancouver on an island, like a rainforest party, and like the wisest, coolest thing anyone said to me, like literally in the last 10 years, it was a 5-year-old. His name was Odin. And he became like the king of the festival. He was like the wisest sage we'd ever seen, you know? And he would just like, if you ever needed something to be set off or just be reminded of your humanity, Odin would walk up to you and say something genius, you know? And the greatest thing he said that I took with me was, there are no rules. We just have fun. And that became like the mantra for the entire festival. We did a lot of drugs and we hugged.
Even Odin?
No, Odin was not involved in any of that.
Basically, there was a high 5-year-old.
But he was still the spirit guide. He was still the spirit guide. That's real. Yo, all my best drum sounds are coming out of the Machine Factory sound bank right now. Big ups to NI on that one. Yo, like we spent like, I mean, as far as like people that came up on like different samplers and MPC and that kind of shit, like we spent years cutting up breaks and looking through records and finding like this drum break. Like that was, you know, it was an amazing time and we learned a lot during that period. But then like outcomes, like literally like 2 years ago, everything changed and factory drum sounds are fucking awesome now. There's like 1,000 bass drums in here for me to choose from, and I only need like 3 in my whole life, you know. So it's all like Jimmy said. There's no excuses, dude. Get yourself a drum machine and start banging out some beats, son.
And on my end, my samples come from just songs I like. So when we do the footwork one with Drop, that's just a footwork song I like. So it's mostly, I mean, Biggie, that, you know, It Was All a Dream. That's just a song I like. So a lot of it. Yeah, that's true. One thing that helps us sound like a band is some of the samples are like we're passing around samples. So we have a song where I demonstrated scratching a synth. That's the actual synth from Jamie's record. And when we do the all moving around to the different machines, Jeremy gave me that sample so we could all be in sync pretty much.
Can you give a hint? Where do I have to start with? Is it better to with the MPC, with the keyboard, or?
Well, I always tell everyone start on piano or drums or something, you know?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, man. Keyboard's velocity sensitive on any, like, you can go to, what's that electronic place that's got the helicopters? What's that place called, Tim?
Oh, Conrad's, yeah.
You can go to fucking Conrad's, right? And get like a $100 Yamaha keyboard that's got like, you know, it's like, I don't know. I don't have it up here, but like, you know, yeah, it's like doom, 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 you know, it's all like set up, you know, it's the same thing. So that's a really easy way to go. And the keyboard is just such a beautiful thing because you can play it like a drum, you know, like a drum set, or you can, you know, you can play melody and harmony, but just pick one. That's all you got to do. Fuck it. I mean, there's like 1,000 input devices in the world. Just pick one. Make a decision. That's how you start.
I will do it.
Yeah, I think you just pick something and stick with it. Like Mostly Robot wouldn't exist if we all pursued nothing but piano for 10 years. It exists because we each just picked a thing and stuck with it. And I'm a big believer in you just pick a thing and you do it as well as you can, and you expand your ability and your tools little by little and just become an expert in one thing that grows.
Like the reason why piano or like violin or any of those instruments is great is that if you can learn how to do one thing in one hand and another thing in another hand, and you're training your brain. That's what's up. It's not you're training your fingers. You're training your brain to be able to think about a couple different things at the same time. That's literally like if you learn that at an early enough age, it actually will fuse the two sides of your brain together quite literally and make you a more intelligent person. So I mean, we all still have that opportunity now to actually become smarter people. So practice, people, practice.
Okay, I guess that was it, at least for the first part of CDR. So I guess we are going to listen to all of your tunes next that all of you submitted. And we have to give a big up to Native Instruments for actually making this happen, to putting this band together. We also have to thank Sennheiser for hooking us up, Adidas, the Red Bull Music Academy, and Jägermeister. And most of all, Mostly Robot. Thanks, guys.